Okay, so a few months ago I did a couple of reviews on a couple of different pieces of equipment I have for my camera. One being a monopod and one being a tripod. And I thought I'd do a little follow-up because it's been a few months, as you can probably tell. I do need a bit of a haircut. No jokes at the baldness, thank you. But I thought, yeah, I've been using these pretty consistently for the last few months. I should really do some sort of follow-up. The last couple of videos were just based on a couple of months' use of each, and it has been a while since then, so I thought, let's take a look at the monopod again. Now, I've not been using it as much as I have the tripod. I've been experimenting more, as some of my videos will attest to, more sort of nighttime photography, long exposures. Okay, well, I'll post the links below in the comments. In the comments? Well, you know what I mean. In the description section. So I haven't had much use to use this, or at least not as much use as I have to have used this, but I'll come back to that. But this has taken a bit of a beating in some regards. It looks in general alright until you look at the foot section here. I'll just try to keep this in focus as far as the camera is concerned. Let's see if the autofocus, there we go. You might just be able to see this. If I do that, yeah. The screw thread has gotten quite rusty. Still works. Okay. And that section there looks relatively clean, except there's just all kinds of dirt that I haven't really managed to clean up properly. It does look just a bit on the dirty side. I'm thinking maybe something like spraying some WD-40 on would possibly help clean it up a bit more, but that's basically the only real problem with it. The other real issue is that these sections here are starting to stiffen up. And the reason they're starting to stiffen up is simply because of usage, okay? They have had enough use now to effectively, you know, get dirt inside them a little bit, so I'm still looking at ways to clean that out. Just going at it with a damp cloth, for example, hasn't been enough to really do anything to sort it out. So it has basically kind of stiffened things up a bit, whereas before it would have just dropped just ever so slightly faster. This time round, it's not doing quite as well. It's alright when you get to the more higher sections like this, but in general, it's just stiffening up a bit. And that's presumably just because of use. Switching over to the tripod, and we are kind of getting similar issues in the legs themselves. There's one of the little legs and stands here that is sticking a lot more than the others do. I'll probably find about, there we are. I'll just do that again. It's fine when you actually gave it a little bit of wiggle room, but if you've left it locked up for a while, then it does tend to stiffen up a bit, so it just doesn't quite drop as easy as it used to. The others seem to be doing just fine in that regard. Although you can sort of hear a bit of shaking. The rattling noise, it's always done that, which is exactly what you would expect it to do, but and it might help a bit more if I actually tighten these up properly. You can just hear ever so slightly, just a little bit of rattling. But in general, yeah, this is still doing very, very well. Now the main question somebody might be tempted to ask is, which is actually better? The tripod with its great stability, or the monopod? And it really depends on what you're wanting to do. The monopod has some great advantages in that you can use it as a sort of walking stick. I've said before in the previous video that a lot of monopods I've seen in some shops have basically came as pairs of walking sticks, so you can do Nordic style walking, but one of them being modified so that you can fit the camera onto the actual top of the mount, and either just being, you know, a freestyle, so to speak. And obviously, because of the construction of these sections, they're thicker than what you get on the tripod. And in some regards you can see why it needs to be, because it's going to be more heavy duty usage. Okay, if you're going to be using this as a walking stick, it needs to be stronger than perhaps this would need to be. But it is basically the same basic designs, just scaled up, engineered to be a little stronger. And you can't use the tripod in that regard. You could use it as a monopod just by having one leg extended and the other two legs just, brought in, or all three legs on one side, but that's a bit fiddly. The other massive advantage this has is that in general, when fully extended, this is fully extended, this is fully extended, it's got just a bit more in the way of height, okay? Now that's taller than I am. Well, with the camera on, this would be higher up than I am, so I'd be having to do this to look through the eyepiece. But then we've got the viewfinders nowadays that sort of take that away. I just have to angle it differently like that and then take the photo. But you can still adjust as needs be to whatever height you like, up to its maximum, obviously. But which is actually better? I mean, I could use this when I'm out walking in the wilds, for example, and I could use this to pan around and get a panoramic view. Can you do that with a tripod? Yes, you can, simply because the tripod has this section here which you just have to loosen up a bit, and there you go. You can do exactly the same thing. And you can do that at any kind of height you like, just by adjusting the various different levels that you've got. You can shorten the legs, you can shorten the neck. What you can do with the monopod in that regard, you can easily replicate with the tripod. The main advantage this has is that it has this little base unit that screws into the bottom of the camera. At the moment I've got my camera stacked up on various different books over there, but if it was attached to this, then you would just basically hook this section in like that, fit that in like that, and there you go. Everything nice and stable, making sure of course the screw thread is as tightly in as it can be, without making it too tight. You don't want to end up breaking the thread. And if you need to, you can just lock it in place and it's not going anywhere. And of course this little handle here adjusts everything. It's really meant to be out the front, but I prefer to have it here because it just feels a bit more stable. Although that could just be personal preference. You could easily turn it around the other way and do it that way. It makes no real difference. For us, making it go up and down, you can just unfasten it and do it manually like that. There's a little winding motion option here, which obviously works, and it's probably the recommended use, but if you're in a hurry, it's not going to make any difference. That is fast overall. You just have to watch out you don't end up doing yourself an injury with that. So which is actually better? It really depends on what you're wanting to do. They're both different pieces of equipment for different things. There are things that you can do with the tripod that you wouldn't be able to do with this, at least not easily. If you wanted to do nighttime photography, for example, you really need to have the most stable base you can, because the camera is probably going to end up defaulting to a longer exposure. And if you do a longer exposure, like some of the photos I've put videos up about before, then I find the monopod is just a bit redundant in that regard. It's good for walking in the daytime, good for taking daytime shots and so on and so forth, but the kind of long exposure photos that I like to take, this isn't going to cut it, because you might think you're holding it steady, you're not. It's going to be moving sooner or later. Okay, the most minor fluctuations in your body movement are going to be picked up by this, and that's going to create one of those wobbly little images that might work in certain circumstances, but if it's not what you're aiming for, it's not what you're aiming for. Whereas with the tripod, the firm base means it's pretty much guaranteed to allow you to get the photo you want pretty much every time. Okay. Obviously, if you don't want to take long exposure photos, you don't have to. There's nothing saying that you have to. It's just one of many different options available to you in the field of photography. I am just basically not even a ranked amateur here. I am somebody who's literally just starting out as a very occasional hobby. simply because I don't have the time to put into it that I would like to. So that said, it really depends on what you're wanting to do. If you're wanting to have as firm a base unit as possible, then you just need the tripod. If you're wanting to get out and about, okay, and you just need a bit of stability, not too much, then you need this. And there is plenty of options on carrying these things around. There's vests that people can get that allow you to strap things like this and this onto the vest units themselves. There's all kinds of options, so you don't have to just take one piece of equipment. And in some cases there are ways to work around having no pieces of equipment either. But that's probably another video. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.